All right, this next video is just to walk you through just the hominins, the different type of hominins. Now, you don't need to remember all of the different species names and the orders in which they come. You do need to know which one came first between Australopithecus and the genus Homo. Now, that's pretty much the trend that we need to understand, but it's really nice to walk you through a bit of a timeline. So all of the information that I'm giving you is already in your booklet. It is on page 4. So I'm just going to talk through them and then we're going to put them all on your timeline on page 5. So what might be better is if you have page 5 open and then we can just sketch them as we go and you can add some information. So let's have a look here. So the dot point says that we need to know major trends in hominin evolution from the genus Australopithecus to the genus Homo. Yeah, so that's what I said. You don't need to know the species names, but you do need to know the genus names. So there are only 2. It's not too bad. And I'll talk you through them as we go. There is going to be another video that goes into a bit more detail about these trends. So this video in particular is just about creating a timeline of all the different human species or hominins, so the human-like species and our ancestors, essentially. So normally what we'll do is we look at some skulls, and what we're going to do when you get back to school is we'll pull out the skulls and we'll have a look at them there, because it is a much easier thing, particularly the next section of the course, to do if we can look at some of the model skulls. So here is the timeline that's on page 5, and here is our first hominin. So this female fossil was found. Her name is Lucy. She is Australopithecus afarensis, and she is our first ever human-like fossil that we found. Now, we think that Lucy, based on dating methods of the fossils, we think that Lucy existed around this time here, between 4 million and 3 million years ago. So this is Lucy, or Australopithecus afarensis. And the reason she's called Lucy is a really nice little story. The paleontologists, when they were digging up all the bones at their site, their archaeological dig, is they were playing Lucy in the sky with diamonds when they found her. So when they found her, they went, oh, let's just call her Lucy. So that's why she's called Lucy. Now, she has shoulders and pelvis and backbone that indicate that she was bipedal. Now, bipedal means 2, pedal meaning legs. She can walk on 2 legs. She has quite a small brain. And she has a very large protruding jaw and canines. So canines are these teeth here. Yeah? And I'll show you that on the skull when you come in. And what we think is she's a direct human ancestor. So this is one of those common ancestors that I'm talking about. So we are very, very likely to have evolved from this species, because this is not a species that exists now. This is a species that existed 4 to 3 million years ago. So that's where Lucy goes on your timeline. The next one that we have in the fossil record is this one called Australopithecus africanus. They are also bipedal. They are human-like hands and feet, so they have things that look much more like our hands than they do of the hands of a chimpanzee. And they were definitely omnivorous. So they consumed both plant material and meat. So you can tell that from our teeth, yeah? Your molars at the back of your mouth are really good for grinding plant material. And these guys at the front of your mouth are really good for tearing flesh. So it's our teeth that actually indicate to us that omnivorous was the diet that we've evolved with. Omnivory. Omnivory? Yeah, that'll do. So where does this one go? This one goes in here. So this one is africanus. So we've got africanus. We had Lucy up here. Yeah. The next one we've got is the first ever recorded species of Homo. This is Homo habilis. Yeah, so Homo habilis existed between 2.5 to 1.6. Hang on, let me just make sure I've got the right one. So 2.5 to about 1.6. H habilis. Habilis, there we go. This one up here is Lucy, or A. africanus. This one is A. afarensis. Afarensis. Yeah, so you can see there's a little bit of overlap there. So why do you think that both of them didn't survive? Why do you think H. habilis or Homo habilis survived longer than Africanus? Thinking ahead. All right, so we've got Homo habilis. The next one is probably the most famous. So this guy is very, very successful. His name is Homo erectus. And Homo erectus is we're almost certain that this is the definite ancestor species that we diverged from, that all the Homo sapiens diverged from Homo erectus. So Homo erectus was around, hang on, I'm just going to pause so I make sure I get the right slide. Got it. Went from 1.8 million years ago all the way up to about 100,000 years ago. So you can see that they were around for quite some time. There is Homo erectus in our timeline. Oh, sorry guys. So Homo erectus had a much larger brain. Yeah, you can see that we're starting to look a lot more human-like, even compared to Homo habilis. Homo habilis looks like it used some tools, but it had a larger brain, but it's not quite as human-looking as, say, Homo erectus is. So they had a larger brain, they had quite advanced tool making, they were very widespread in Asia, but they weren't capable of speaking. Okay, so they couldn't speak. We've had a look at the bones to suggest what their larynx may have looked like, and we don't think they had the ability to speak. Their skeleton, except for their cranium, so the back here, and their face, so the rest of their skeleton is actually very similar to a human skeleton, which is pretty cool. The next one we're going to talk about are the Neanderthals. So this is Homo neanderthalensis. And what they are is they lived about 200,000 years ago and became extinct about 30,000 years ago. So Homo neanderthalensis, not quite to now. Homo neanderthalensis, there we go, got there eventually. Homo neanderthalensis. These ones have actually got a largest brain. They are bigger than humans, bigger than Homo sapiens, which is really interesting that they have a larger brain than what we do. They were very stocky. They were quite short. They were very powerful, though. We think that they were very muscular, and they had this very large brain case and these very pronounced brow ridges. Can you see the brow ridges here? The brow ridges here. They had elaborate tools. These guys had fire. Yeah. As a result of this fire, these were very widespread in Europe. They had language. They definitely had language. Now, it wasn't super complex, but they had language. They also had cave art and burial rituals. So they'd started to develop some societal things. The next one I'm going to talk to you about here is Homo floresiensis, and it only has been found on one small Indonesian island. And the reason I like to bring these guys up is because we call them the Hobbit. They were only a meter tall. Yeah, so imagine maybe just above your hips. That's how big they were. Little humans walking around on one little Indonesian island. Now, we think that they lived, we don't know when they started there. They had quite small brains, but we think that they lived up to about 18,000 years ago. So we're not sure when they started. These are the Homo floresiensis. Floresiensis. I can say it, but I can't write it. That's helpful, isn't it? Now, they had a very small brain. They had tools, they had fire, they had language, but they weren't very big. Yeah, and if you're not very big, how are you going to cope when these guys come along? Yeah, so Homo sapiens, the oldest Homo sapiens kind of fossils that we've found are 175 million years ago. So Neanderthals were Neanderthals were about 200, and these guys here were about 175, depending on who you speak to, 175,000 years ago. Now, the Homo sapiens, very successful. Yeah, most modern species, they probably, what we think happened is they probably outcompeted the Neanderthals. Now, it wasn't to do with their brain size, though. Now, their brain size had nothing to do with it. We had a large cranial capacity, but it was, most of the time, it was actually our very good language. Yeah, We had very good language skills. Now, because you've got very good language skills, you now have the ability to communicate quickly, to communicate well, and that kind of beat the Neanderthals. So we think the Neanderthals were actually bigger and probably stronger than humans, but humans could collaborate and actually almost sneak up on them and out-strategize them because we were smarter than what the Neanderthals were. We can find this kind of smartness or this intelligence in the use of art and also the use of different types of languages. So what we think is we first left Africa about 100,000 years ago, but then there was a big exodus. Yeah, this is called out of Africa, and we colonized the rest of the world when we left Africa about 60,000 years ago. So South Asia got colonized. This is when I say main exodus from Africa. So all of these guys here, all of these four here, they were only in Africa. We've only ever found their fossils in Africa. The Neanderthals, the Homo floresiensis and the Homo sapiens, we've found them outside of Africa. Really interestingly, the Homo neanderthalensis, these guys here, you can't find in Africa. So that means that they actually diverged from Homo erectus after Homo erectus left Africa. Pretty cool. Now, the other thing that I wanted to say is there were two different geni that you have to know. So these ones all here, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo neanderthalensis, Homo floresiensis, Homo sapiens, all of them are genus Homo. And then before genus Homo was the Australopithecines. So the Australopithecines came before the genus Homo. That is the trend that I want you to take away from this video. The Australopithecus came before the genus Homo. There were only one or two Homo geni things that existed at the same time. The other thing that you'll notice is that humans and Neanderthals existed nowhere near the time that the Australopithecus did. Yeah, so that's kind of a big thing. We think that maybe it was actually Homo erectus that kind of drove the extinction of the Australopithecines. Really cool stuff. Here's just a little bit of evidence about where they were discovered, when they were discovered. There's some other ones here. There's Australopithecus boisei. We've put him at about 1.8 million years old. Homo erectus is just, you can see we found him in Indonesia, in China, and in Kenya. Whereas all these guys here, they are only in Africa. You can see here we've only found their fossils in Africa, whereas Homo erectus, we found them in Africa, but we've also found them out of Africa. Then in addition to that, you can see Heidelbergensis. So Heidelberg man was found in Heidelberg in Germany, funnily enough. Neanderthals have also been found in Germany, but not in Africa. And Cro-Magnon man, which is what we think one of the first Homo sapiens fossils that we found, was found in Cro-Magnon in France. It was only found, we think he's about 30,000 years old, and he was found outside of Africa as well. So that is my little bit on the history of hominins.